Hello, this video is going to be about the beginning of the military-industrial complex. As you can see here, I've got a map of the railroads of the United States, and it's very, actually it's the whole point of this video. Eisenhower warned in his farewell address about the military-industrial complex, and he had been president for 8 years, supreme leader of the Allied forces in Europe during World War II, and been in the military all his life. So on his farewell address, he warned everybody beware of the military-industrial complex. Right after him, there was John F. Kennedy, who was, of course, assassinated. And you can debate who killed him. I believe it was the guys on the grassy knoll. But be that as it may, what happened in the wake of his death? LBJ, who was a real piece of work, not in a good way, escalated the Vietnam War from just having basically advisors over there to millions of troops. And after that, JFK was going to make Israel get rid of their nuclear bomb program, and all of a sudden LBJ initiated that first don't ask, don't tell. They could have their nuclear bomb, they just couldn't say that they were nuclear power. So I believe it was the military-industrial complex working with the Mossad. There was several reasons to kill Kennedy. That was, his brother was really hammering the mob at the time, and I believe that the Jewish mafia was prodded by the Mossad to probably get involved with our mafia to knock him off. Intrigue upon intrigue. Anyway, back to the story. Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex. Obviously, it didn't come full-blown like Athena out of Zeus's head. It had a beginning, and the beginning of it was the election of Rutherford B. Hayes in 1876, the fight between him and Tilden for the presidency, and it resulted in the Compromise of 1877. Now, Tilden won the popular vote by almost 250,000 votes, the best numbers I could get, and this was at a time when the total voting population was under 9 million. And Louisiana and Florida were bought off. The history books will tell you that the compromise led to the end of Reconstruction in the South, and it's true. But they paid off the Louisiana Electoral College and the Florida Electoral College to swing the votes to Rutherford B. Hayes for a payoff, and their payoff was getting a military man in there who would be sympathetic to their cause. Now, Rutherford B. Hayes actually did a lot of work with the American Indians after retiring. But the military-industrial complex, which started just then, started expanding with the railroad, and they seized land on each side of the railroad, and they used the cavalry to exterminate or break the power base of the American Indians. If you want to, there's a movie that just came out recently, The Lone Ranger, with Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer, and the main bad guy in there is talking on a train to this little kid, and he's kind of explaining how important the railroad is going to be in the future. So they used the railroad, they expanded it all over the country, and they used it to push out and beat down the Indians. They also used it to kill all the buffalo, because the buffalo would be here primarily in the prairies, right down the middle of the country, and they almost exterminated the buffalo to deny the Indians food. Thank God the buffaloes have come back. They're no longer even close to being extinct. They're doing okay now. The Indians' power, however, has been broken forever. We made treaties, broke them. The Indians were basically the Muslims of the day, the terrorists of the day, and they were used as the boogeyman to spend money on the military, and the military-industrial just went hand in hand from there on. A little side note, if you, the History Channel has a series of DVDs on the men who built America, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Carnegie, also Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt made his money in New York Harbor. He started off with 2 boats that would ferry cargo and people across the little water there. And what they don't really tell you is, how did a 17, 18-year-old kid get the money for 2 ferries? Well, his family was big money from back in the lowlands, the Netherlands, which were always traders. So he was old money. Now he parlayed that into a big fortune, and he was called the Commodore. But he really took off on his fortunes by building railroads. And he was the one that initially backed Rockefeller and helped him get on his feet towards the biggest accumulation of wealth in American history at the time. And the railroads make up a triad, if you will, of transportation. You get pretty much everything comes to America through 3 things: shipping, railroads, and then the smaller outlets to trucks. And that makes up the triad of transportation. I've covered this before. The average piece of food that goes in your mouth travels 500 to 800 miles to get in your mouth. Well, the average good that you get, because so much is made overseas in China and Japan and other places, and in far-flung parts of the U.S., the average thing you buy travels actually 1,400 miles. So there you have it. That's the beginning of the American industrial complex, and they've changed their tactics. Now you have Halliburton over there overseas doing stuff, and we have the Skunk Works still cranking out new weapon systems. But that's where they initially was the railroad and the cavalry, expanding the manifest destiny of the U.S. To build the railroad and exterminate the Indians. As you can see, I had to borrow some tape from Batman to secure this here. Batman's not available for this video. He's somewhere in the other part of the yard. But anyway, I have to thank him for loaning me bat tape that normally used to restrain supervillains. Okay, thank y'all. Bye.